live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show.
Welcome to the FTN Betscast for Tuesday, May 24th here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players. And now you can win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game. It's very easy to play. First, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like and pick whether they're going to go over or under their listed total. So, for example, in basketball today, could be the number of points a guy scores, number of three-pointers he hits, maybe the number of rebounds or assists that he gets. Then you're going to choose an amount of money that you want to enter into the contest. If you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 times your money all the way up to 20 times your money if you go 5 for 5 and get them all correct. But the main reason why I'm excited about the over-under game on Sleeper is that it's the only app where I can join in my buddy's contest and we could all play together. It has a built-in group chat where I can see and copy what you're playing. You can see and copy what I'm playing. We could all see and copy the guy who won 3 days in a row and ride along with him. It's insanely fun when everybody is rooting for the same things together, trying to get the same things to happen and sweating out the same things in order to get a win. So stop what you're doing and download the Sleeper app now to play the new over-under game and have fun with your friends and make some money. On your mobile phone, you can join our listener group on Sleeper at sleeper.com/FTNbets, and Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit up to $100. Again, go down to the description of this podcast. You'll see it right there, sleeper.com/FTNbets, and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. There are terms and conditions that apply, so see Sleeper's terms of use for details. Today, we have our first elimination game in the conference championships with the Western Conference Golden State Warriors up 3-0 on the Dallas Mavericks in this game. This game will be taking place in Dallas. As far as injury news, there's not a lot to talk about here. The only thing that's even popping up as an injury question is Otto Porter of the Golden State Warriors, who was listed as questionable here today. It's early in the morning. We don't have too many more details on whether or not he's going to play, so we'll have to see how that works out. Although the Warriors are deep enough that even if he doesn't play or when he was off the floor after he got injured in one of the earlier games in this series, they've been able to kind of weather the storm without him with the depth that they have. So not too overly concerned about it here. Obviously, having Otto Porter in would be better, but I don't think it's going to make much of an impact on the way we see this game going overall. So with Golden State up 3-1 and this game being in Dallas, Dallas is actually favored by 1 point in this game. It opened at -1, pretty much where it stayed here. There's a couple places that moved it up to -1.5. But if you want to play a -1, you can still get Dallas -1. DraftKings actually has this juice down a little bit, which is the best place to play it. You can get this Dallas -1 at -105 on DraftKings, so a little bit below standard juice there. If you're on the Warriors side of the game, which honestly, if I was going to bet, I think the Warriors side of the game is where I would be. I don't think that's anything crazy. I mean, the Warriors are up 3-0 already. They won the first 3 games by 25, 9, and 9 points, including the last game, which was in Dallas, that they won by 9 points as well. So taking the Warriors here as a road dog does seem to be the side where the value is. You can get the Warriors as high as +1.5 on Sugar House. You got to play a little extra juice for it. It's juiced up a little bit to -114. But again, I think that's a good number there. I think I'd rather just play the money line, though. I mean, if you're going to play the Warriors here today, what's the point of taking the +1.5? Like, to me, I think I would rather just go Warriors money line if I was going to make a bet on this game. But I'm not really super interested in being down on, a side or a total here, really. So let's talk about those totals. The total opened at 215.5. It is sitting at every single online sportsbook in New Jersey right now at that exact same 215.5. DraftKings, BetMGM, Sugar House, Caesars, PointsBet, everything you can, every book that's out there right now has this game at plus or minus, 215.5 over or under. and it's sitting at minus 110. So that seems to be the number that is out there. So let's take a look at what happened so far in the series. In the first 3 games of the series, we had, let's see, the first game ended with a 199 total. The second game ended with a 243 total. The third game ended with a 209 total. So the average score for the first 3 games has been 217 points, with that 243-point game being the main outlier and the only one that has actually gone over today's total here today. These teams did play 4 times in the regular season, but remember, when they played in the regular season, it was very different roster constructions for both teams. Golden State had a different roster construction because of some injuries to some of their main pieces. And Dallas had a different roster construction because at the time of at least the first couple games, they still had Kristaps Porzingis. They didn't have Spencer Dinwiddie in there. They had different players that were playing minutes. So, you always got to keep that in mind when you look at these regular season numbers, that, it's not really an apples to apples comparison because, again, it's not the exact same team that's out on the floor today that we had out on the floor when they were playing those games. With that being said, though, those 4 games ended, 181, 222, 208, 235. So an average of 211.5 points in the 4 meetings between these teams during the regular season, which is, again, so far in the playoffs, it's been 217. The regular season was 211.5, right around the 215 number that, we have here today. The blended average of all the games that these 2 teams have played together this year is about 213, which is about 2 points off of the 215.5 total that we see at every sports book here, plus or minus. So what do we really do with this? I mean, I guess my lean would be to the under. I mentioned if you take out that 243 game, which seems to be the outlier here, the other 2 games are 199 and 209. So, firmly under the 215 total here today. The average for them during the regular season, 211, is under the total here today. 4 of the 7 games these 2 teams have played ended up under the total here today. So if you're going to make a bet on anything here today with the total, I think the under is probably the better way to go with this. So that would be the way that I'm looking. Is it something I have a lot of conviction in? No, not really. But I do think the under is the side that you want to have your money on if you're looking to get some money down on the side or a total for this game tonight. So now let's move on and talk about some of the player props here. There's a few of them that are kind of interesting to me here. There's a couple of them that I want to play on the sports book. There's a few that popped out on the sleeper app, and I'll mention them to you, but I don't know if I'm necessarily in love with any of them. It's a tough day for sleeper, although we did win 2 of the last 3 days over on sleeper, which has been nice. We've been putting some money in everybody's pockets over there. Remember, get down to the description in the bottom. You guys can join the group, sleeper.com/FTNBets. Get that $100 deposit. You can win some money with us. And I'll show you a little trick later on in the show to get plus 500 odds on the sleeper play today. The first thing that I'm looking at here with the player props, though, is going to be Spencer Dinwiddie over 13.5 points. I could get this right now at minus 113 on Sugar House, so a little bit above standard juice. It's as high as minus 125 on some of the other sites here. So I do think we're getting a little bit of a discount here. Dinwiddie's gone over 13.5 points in 2 of the last 3 games. He's averaging 15.6 points so far this series. So, 2 or 3 points above where we need him to be today. And the thing that I like the most about it is last game, he played a series high 32 minutes. Dinwiddie has been playing more like 22 to 26 minutes per game. So when you can get him up into that 32 range, that's going to give me a lot more faith in the scoring. He's going to be the trigger man for that second unit like he normally is when Luka's off the floor. But now they're also playing him more off the ball with Luka on the floor, which makes a lot of sense, especially last game when you had guys like, Kleber and, Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock and Davis Bertans. Like, none of these guys were shooting very well last game. I think combined, they, scored under 10 points. All the scoring was basically done by 3 guys. It was Luka Doncic, it was Jalen Brunson, and it was Spencer Dinwiddie. So I like the fact that Dinwiddie's playing more minutes. I like the fact that he's being a little more aggressive. And I like the fact that he's one of the few guys that can actually put the ball in the basket on his team. So over 13.5 points, minus 113.5. This is one that I'm looking to play on the sports books here today. But I do like Spencer Dinwiddie to go over his points. Another one that I like a lot here today is going to be Kivon Looney to go over his points at 8.5 points. Plus 102 on FanDuel is the payout here. That's actually one of the reasons why I like it, because we're getting plus money payouts on it. So Looney has been over 8.5 points in all 3 games so far. He had 10 in the one game, a 21 monster game in the second. Then he had 9 points in the last game as well. The thing I like, though, is his minutes are very high. During the regular season, he was only playing about 20 minutes per game, averaging right around 6 points, a little over 6 points. Now he's playing closer to 30 minutes per game. He played 28, 32, and 29 in the 3 games so far this series for Dallas. So what is that? 29.6 minutes per game is what he's playing at the moment here. And again, if you're averaging 6 points in 20 minutes, if you're playing 30 minutes, you would expect that to go up 50% as well, which puts him at around 9 points here today, which is what we need for him to cash this. So again, we have a projection for Looney that is over 9 points. We have Looney at over plus money at plus 102 on FanDuel. This is not one that I would play on the sleeper app, but it's definitely one that I'm interested to play on the sportsbook. So I like Kivon Looney over 8.5 points here today against a small Dallas Mavericks interior where, again, he's had 12 rebounds in each of the last 2 games. So this is a guy that's sitting there down low and, making sure that he's picking off some of those rebounds. He's going to finish some plays that, some of the other guys have going to the basket. He'll get some open shots. He's not going to get a ton in transition because he doesn't get up and down the floor as fast as some of the guards. But like I said, he has been able to get over this. 40 points in 3 games for Looney. He's averaging 13.3. We only need him to get 9 here today. I like this one a lot. Next one I'm going to talk about is one that I am looking to play over on the sleeper app. And I'm also going to be looking to play this on the sports books as well. And that's going to be Klay Thompson over 2.5 assists. All 3 games of this series, Klay has had at least 3 assists or more, averaging 4 assists per game in the series. The thing I like too is, again, one of the things that I always talk about is, look at what a guy did during the regular season. Look at what his minutes were to get those stats. Now you go into the postseason where guys are playing a little bit longer. Their rotation, they may get an extra rotation. They may get a couple extra minutes in their rotation. So the minutes for a lot of these stars are up. So if their minutes are up, it stands to reason that their production is going to be up as well. And that's one of the reasons why I like this Klay Thompson over 2.5 assists here today. During the regular season, Klay averaged over 2.5 assists anyway at 2.7, and he was only playing 31 minutes per game. Now he's up to playing closer to 37 minutes per game so far in this series. And you would expect that his number would take a little bit of a bump. Now, is it going to be a massive bump? No, he's not going to go up to 10 assists or anything crazy like that. But at 2.5, we only need him to get 3. And like I said, this is something he's done in every game of this series so far here. So to get this at plus money, I just feel like we're getting a really good value on this here today. And I think this should be closer to like minus 120, actually. So I even think it's a good thing to look at for the sleeper app here today. I think this would be one of my favorite plays of the day. Klay Thompson over 2.5 assists, even money on FanDuel, and something I'm going to be playing on the sleeper app here today. And then the last one that actually not the last one I want to talk about, but the next one I want to talk about, Draymond Green over 7.5 points, minus 110 on FanDuel. This is as high as like minus 120, minus 125 even on Caesars here today. Draymond had 10 points in 2 of the 3 games of the series, which obviously would put us over that 7.5 points we need to cash this. The other game, he had 6 here. So 2 out of 3 games being over the 8 points that he needs to cash this year, 8 or more. It's a pretty interesting thing to me. During the regular season, he averaged 7.6 points, and he did that on under 6 field goals per game. Now, he's taken at least 6 field goals or more in every game so far in the playoffs. And, in every game so far in this series. And he's averaging, what does he have? 8.6 points per game so far in this series. So again, a little bit above the number that we need here today. Definitely something that we like to see overall. Again, we need 8 points for him to cash. Draymond Green, minus 110 on FanDuel, over 7.5 points. Definitely something I'm going to be interested in. And then the last one that I'm interested in, there was a couple things that popped out on the screener that I use for sleeper here today. What we like is when we can find these things that are like minus 125, minus 135 consensus across all these books here, because that means that we're giving something a 57, 58% chance likelihood of actually happening. And if we can put a couple of those things together that are 50, 60% likely to happen, we're going to have some really good plays over on sleeper and we're going to be able to cash. It's the reason why we've been able to cash 2 of the last 3 nights here, because we're looking for those things that seem to be overvalued where there's some value being offered for us on the sleeper app. One of those things today is going to be Luka Doncic over 7.5 assists. This is minus 120 on FanDuel, minus 135 on DraftKings, MGM, and Caesars. Now, last game, nobody made any shots. I think Reggie Bullock was like 0 for 7 from 3. And, the other guys, Kleber and Dwight Powell and, Davis Bertans, like all the secondary pieces that they have on Dallas did not play well. So Luka only had 3 assists. The game before, those guys did play a little bit better. And Luka ended up with 8 assists in that game. So asking Luka for 8 assists is not a big thing. This is something he's done. I mean, I can't even count the number of times he's done it. I'm looking at it right now. I can't even count the number of times he did it during the year because it was quite a few times that he was able to get over this number. So I do think it's a good one to play here on the sleeper app here today. Like I said, 120 to 135. We're talking like 56 to 58% chance to cash. That is something that we're going to be interested in. So there you go. That wraps it up for the player prop. So let's get into our sleeper play of the day here today. This one's a little riskier than the ones that we've played recently, but I do have a good, strong feeling about it. So remember, get down to the description of this podcast. FTN, you're going to get sleeper.com/FTNBets. That'll bring you over to our FTN Bets sleeper group. And what goes on over there is every time somebody in our group puts in a bet or puts in a play, you will see exactly what they're playing. You will see who the guys that they took are, whether they took over or under, all that good stuff. This way you can tail along if you see something that you really like, or you could bet against it if you think that person's emotion is going to be, losing like they do almost every other day. So if that's the case, this way you guys have it one way or another, you know what to do with it there. So my sleeper play for the day is going to be that Luka Doncic over 7.5 assists there. The -120 on FanDuel, -135 at the other books. I like that a lot. Has a high probability of cashing. That's going to be the first leg of my play here today. The second leg of my play here today is going to be the Klay Thompson over 2.5 assists. Like I said, he's done it in all 3 games of this series so far. His minutes are up. This is definitely a good situation for him to be in here. You could put those two things together. So here's the way I'm going to be playing it tonight. If you are new to the sleeper app, you could put $100 in after you click on that link below. That's going to give you $200 to play with. You put that full $200 on Luka over 7.5 assists, Klay Thompson over 2.5 assists. If they both wind up cashing, you're going to get yourself a payout of $600 on $100 out of pocket that you invested. That's a plus 500 payoff at the end of the day. Much better than you're going to get on any of the sports books. If you try to parlay those two things together over on the sports book, maybe you get like plus 300, plus 330, somewhere in there. So you're going to wind up getting $330 instead of $600. I would much rather have the $600. I assume most of you will as well. So like I said, get over there, get down to the description, click on that link, put in the $100, get the max bonus, and go and make some money here today. So that's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the FTN Bets Cast here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends at Sleeper. Good luck today, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.